Hey everybody, this is Sunday, October 31st in Kentucky, and I just dropped my daughter off at Fort Knox. Yes, the Fort Knox where the Gold Vault exists. Goldfinger, James Bond, also the location of the filming of the movie Stripes, if you ever saw that movie. Lots of stuff that's happened here at Fort Knox. It's an old base. Anyway, I'm not on Fort Knox anymore, but dropped my daughter off to do some trick-or-treating. And I'm going to talk a little bit about how I come up with tags for my songs. Now, just in general, whether it's a tag for a ballad or an uptune, I'll spend a lot of time on the tag. Typically, I will. Sometimes it depends on if I've done the entire song already and I'm kind of done for the day. I'll write down just some first initial thoughts and just put something down and get it written down just as kind of a placeholder tag. Maybe it just kind of finishes and maybe it's a generic kind of thing. But when I'm ready to really focus on it, typically I don't really get around to the tag until honestly the whole song is done. There's the rare occasion that I'll have, I don't know, some brilliant idea that this is the way the song's going to end before I even started it. And that doesn't typically happen. That's not normal, but it has happened sometimes. And then I'll write down a tag and say, all right, this is the tag. It's going to be exciting. And the rest of the song's going to build into that. But not normally. So typically what I'll do is I'll get the whole song, arranged and, to like a 95% finished kind of status. And I noticed I sniffed a lot yesterday on my video, so I'm gonna try and sniff a little bit more today. I've just got this Kentucky allergy thing. It's constant. So now you're gonna start counting how many times I sniff. Anyway, I'll get the whole song done, then I'll come back, I'll get to the end, and I'm thinking, okay, what do I want the audience to be left with? And I don't start thinking about the tag as a separate entity previous to the tag, several phrases before I've already decided, okay, this is kind of how I'm going to lead into the tag and I'm building up to it. But I guess there's a few guiding things I'm thinking about. One, I just said, what do I want the audience to feel at the end? Is it going to end high? Is it going to end down soft? Is it going to end on a major chord, minor chord, some kind of odd jazz chord? What key do I want it to end in? Sometimes that's all depending on the group. Sometimes I'll give them some options. I'll get to the place where I'm kind of nearing the last page of the tag, and I'll say, okay, do you want, what are your strengths? Who do you like? Who do you want to have the post? If there is a post, how do you want to finish this up? If they have some ideas in mind, then I go for that. Maybe there's just a big a thing that they really want to get out of the tag, and it's to be, maybe they want it to be a big high ringing chord, that just smacks and the audience loves it. So I mean, I'll start thinking about what do I want for the tag, what do I want the audience to feel, and what do you want, what's the group that I'm writing for, what do they want the audience to feel from this tag? What do they want to get when it's all said and done, when it's over, the chord cuts off? What do you want the audience, what do you want the audience to feel? What's the group want the audience to think about this? And it's a big deal because the audience is going to remember, mostly they remember kind of what you just finished up with. They often won't remember parts of the rest of the song. They're going to remember the last thing they heard. And I mean, they'll definitely remember the last thing they heard. And if it's great, then that's a plus. Could help the overall performance level of the song. So that's something just right up front. How's it going to impact the audience? I get the range, find out, like I started to say, find out what's the strongest thing, what does the group want? Is there a one person that's going to post, or hold a note, or can they do that for a certain amount of time? And if they can't, do they still want it to have a long post or something, and then maybe you switch it off to somebody else? Do you switch around a lot? These are things that you might communicate with a group about. And if there's any details they want, I just kind of work it in. And then on top of that, I'll think about, okay, what's the whole feeling of the entire song? So here's the chunk of the song. How long does the tag need to be to feel appropriate with the song? Sometimes you could get away with a little short little snippet of a tag, something that's quick and over and done. Other times it needs to be longer. So the duration, how long is it lasting compared to the entire length of the song? What kind of chords are being used in the tag? And if the entire song had a certain kind of feel, like let's say it had a jazzy kind of major 6 kind of feel, are you using those in the tag also? Is the song mostly minor and then you're doing a bunch of major chords in the tag? If that's what you want, it's going to generate a different feel than the minor chords. So considering, the chords that I'm using in the tag, how do they balance in with everything else that happened in the song? And is the tag embellished and rhythmically fitting for the rest of the song? So if the whole song is generally like non-homorhythmic, really, kind of, well, let me back that up. If the whole song is mostly homorhythmic, homophonic, then when you get the tag, if there's a lot of rhythm that's bouncing back and forth and it's non-homorhythmic, non-homophonic, and it's just syncopated all over the place, is that going to stick out from from the rest of the song? Is that what you want? Why would you do that? It's going to send a certain signal to the audience. So how does it balance in? So those are just some general things. And the chords, the rhythm, the complexity of any of that, the melodic lines leading into the tag, leading into the end, how do they compare with what's happened before? Do you have the melody and the different moving lines in whatever part? Do they fit with what's happened previously? Do they need to fit? Does it matter if they do or don't? Sometimes it can just be on the end and be done. Other times it really needs to be woven in and feel like it's a nice extension of the song. So just things to consider with the melody also. Another consideration going into a tag is whether it's a high post or a soft low thing or whatever it is, where does that tag fit in the overall arc of the song? Because if you start the song here, and let's talk about first range and tessitura, or just the how high you go with the chords, especially up to the tenor part. How high does the tenor, how high does the lead get in the bulk of the song? Because you're going through and your highest points, your highest chords are typically going to be more emotional and bigger and probably at the climax points in the song. So if you're going through and it's big here, then it settles down, then bigger here, then it settles down, and then this is higher here and higher here and higher here or whatever, and you're coming up and you want to do a big tag, how high can you go? So you have to be aware that if you go so high early on, then you get to the tag and you don't have anywhere else to go, it might feel anticlimactic because you're either staying about where you used to be, you get to height a certain, the chords are pretty high and you can't go any higher and you just kind of stay there, it might feel anticlimactic. Or if you end up lower with lower chords, that could feel just underwhelming at the end. So can you build it to where your highest chords, you never go to the highest thing or whatever, the biggest, highest point till the very end? So that's something to consider. You have to kind of start thinking back a few phrases at least. I think you can get away with having big climactic points in the middle, or even 2/3 of the way through, and then come down and then end back up. And it doesn't have to be necessarily the highest point of the song at the end, but it should feel like it's built up to this climax. So that's something I consider. Also, getting into tags, what vowel target I want to end on. And one thing I make sure I start to ponder right up front is, what do the lyrics allow me to do with vowel targets? So if let's for instance the song "How High the Moon," just pick a song with an ooh target at the end. How high the moon. An ooh is just a closed target. You're not going to get a lot of volume out of an ooh. It's really tough. Whereas the word high is a pretty nice open target, the ah target. So are there options in the lyrics to a natural word that you can use and take to the tag to be kind of the final chord, especially if you're going to be up on a high, big tag? Lower, softer tags, it doesn't matter as much if it's not going to be, if you don't need as much volume. But when you have big stuff, you want to, try it. If it's that important to you, you consider getting it up to an open vowel, something that's open, an ah or an eh or an ah. O works okay sometimes. But so I'll look at the lyrics of the song and try and find, hey, is there a message, a lyric that can be the last chord? And if there's not, and oftentimes, most of the time you can find something. So like for How High the Moon, I would just I'd probably use how high, something like that. How deep is the ocean? How high is the sky? You end up the end on sky. But if you don't have anything like that, you have to kind of find a word that can work, that maybe it's not exactly one of the perfect, within the framework of the lyrics that you have. Maybe it's an additional lyric that you add in to get to an open vowel. And the problem with that is if you just stick a nice big open vowel at the end of a song, it can stick out. It can sound just totally random and weird. So you want to start back several, phrases, or even earlier on, maybe the third time through a section, introducing that new vowel target, whatever it is. So like the word, here's another example, the song "Just One of Those Things." It was just one of those things, just one of those trailings. Ending on the word things can work if you can get that E to be nice and open. But is there another word in there? Just one, just one of those. There's not a good word in there. So early on, can you work in some other word? Maybe there's a way to work in the word love, or day, or something, some other word that you can tie in early on with the overall message. So just one of those things. It was a normal day. Another time that we got together. I don't know. You start just randomly thinking through things. What kind of word can you get to tie in and make sense if you use it on the end, without just sticking it on the end? And then you build that in earlier someplace, work in that new word, that new phrase, so that when you get to the tag, you can finish with that and it doesn't sound like you just shoved it on the end, this big open target. So you don't want to shove anything on there that just seems so out of place. Another thing to consider is the style of the song, the original song. If it's some kind of rock, pop, jazz song, are you putting a barbershop tag on it that just sounds really out of place? And that's something that's kind of a personal thing. You know, you have to decide, does it feel okay to you? And if you're not sure, then get an opinion of somebody else, especially if it's a unique song that's a pop song, something current that everybody knows real well. And if you put a big "oh yeah" on the end of it, or whatever, you know, it's probably going to sound kind of funny. Unless you really want it to sound funny, and then that's then you're achieving your point. But those are some things to consider that I think about when I'm writing tags, just right on top of my head. It's fun to come up with good endings to songs, because if you can put yourself in the position of the audience when you're writing this stuff, you can get excited about the tag, and then the final chord cutting off and how everything's going to feel to the audience, and you can get that feeling going, and then that kind of motivates you with the rest of the song. So there's a few thoughts, and I'll talk to you again soon.